going to do today in this new video, we're going to turn a 3D piece of mine into a 2D one. And whenever I open Procreate and open up a new canvas or piece of paper, I never have an end goal in mind. So as you can see, at first I cut out a moon and turned it yellow, and I didn't like that because I was thinking of another piece, but now I'm going to move on to this one, which is a gray moon. So I made the moon just hand drawing it, and I shaded the edges, and now I'm adding the craters, which is just a darker circle of gray, and then adding a ring of dark gray around it, then shading it out and fading it out so there's still a line, but it's not prominent. And now I'm going to continue to just add more craters and dots and circles and shading my moon, and it's okay if you get it out of the moon outline because I could clean it up later. And now I'm adding the tiny little craters. It kind of looks like pimples at first, so I'm just going to do the same process as the big craters. Then I'm adding a whole bunch of texture now, just dotting with a airbrush. Then I'm going to continue just making a whole bunch of texture and just roughening up because it is the moon, so the more texture you add, the better, so it looks like kind of a rock. And my type of moon is kind of like my 2020 July bullet journal, if you guys seen that. So that moon kind of was inspired from that. And now I'm just darkening the edges, fixing the shape to what I like. Now, to add more texture, I'm bringing back that moon and lowering the opacity and putting it over my drawn moon, so it gives the texture of the moon without using the picture. So now I rotate it and I warped it a little bit so it matches what shape I like better, and now I'm shading it more because when I added the moon picture on top, it kind of lightened it. Now I'm fixing the lighting of it. Now adding the background and building the galaxy that will be the sky, and I added a whole bunch of clouds for a placeholder for right now, but I'll change that later. And I'm just bringing a whole bunch of galaxy pictures and just lowering the opacity way down and placing them and puzzling them together. Now I'm gonna make the frame of the drawing, and I forgot that I didn't show you what I was making, so I'll put it in right now. And as you can see, it was my 2020 phone case for August, and now back to doing the wooden plank for the frame. And so I just erased the frame, cut out the frame first and erased it, and I shaded it with a darker shade to make it look a little eroded. Now a lot of the frame is out of frame, but I will make the picture smaller so it actually fits it, but you guys will just have to see it for this. So I duplicated the wooden plank 4 times so I can make the frame. Now I am shading around the inside of the frame so it looks like it's a picture inside the frame. Now I'm taking my astronaut and I pulled up 3 pictures, but in the end I just used the lower right one, and I just warped him a lot. I cut him up a lot to just piece together the shape I wanted, and I did take a piece of his arm and placed it on his hip area to cover up his pre-existing arm. So it's just a whole bunch of color correcting, a whole bunch of blending in, and a whole bunch of just drawing over it with the same colors so it lines up perfectly and makes the shape and pose of the astronaut I want. So what I'm doing is just creating my astronaut, probably just shading it, moving things around so it doesn't look so weird, and yeah. So now I turned back on the background color so I could just erase and clean up the things that I've missed. And for Procreate, it's not like Photoshop because you can't just take out a person, I'm pretty sure, or haven't learned how to do that yet, so I just erase around and it's a bit messy sometimes. So this was the first time me trying to use Procreate in the style of how you would use like Photoshop, so my first attempt. So now I'm gonna bring back everything and place my little astronaut onto the moon. He's gonna be sitting, and now I'm just shading it and adding the brightness and just making him look like he's in the picture by changing the lighting, adding highlights, and yeah. So now he's all bright because the moon is a little bit brighter and shining some light on him. So that's what I'm gonna do, and now I'm bringing in the fishing rod, which was a tedious process because it's very thin and I need to erase it by hand. So this kind of took a while because, as you can see, it's very, very thin, and after I erased the background for the fishing pole, after I warped it, I'll warp it some more, and I have to shade it and highlight it, add highlights to it, and just get everything working. And the little reel part I had to fix and put it over his hand because I'm pretty sure that's how fishing poles work. And now I'm adding the fishing line, which is just a very thin white line. And now I brought back everything. Now I'm adding the stars to make it shine, and I duplicated them a couple more times, and now I'm just dotting with more stars, and I'm gonna add more texture on it. So as you can see, I finally made it smaller so you can see the whole view, and I added more texture, and for right now it's basically finishing up the whole process of like adding a whole bunch of texture, finishing up the clouds, as you can see, and adding a whole bunch of layers of dirty wallpaper, ripped up wallpaper, so it could give it a whole bunch of texture. And what I wanted for this was kind of a frame looking into a different world, or a painting that was just very fantasy-like. So as I added more of the layers, the painting got more muted, and I didn't like that. Well, I liked it in the beginning at first, but I didn't like it after, so I erased it. Now I'm adding more torn up pieces of wallpaper so it gives it texture and it looks a little bit eroded, so everything around the piece is damaged, but inside is just a fantasy-like galaxy. And now I'm adding planets, which I didn't decide in the beginning, but I did. So I just cut out some planets and adding a whole bunch of texture and fixing the lighting on everything so it looks beautiful and bright and shining. And here I'm bringing in a Saturn-like planet and adding rings around it. And the rings were a bit complicated, but I hope they got it. And there you go. So that was the last thing, and I hope you liked it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!